Hello, good morning to all of you. I hope all of you are doing well. So, in today's class, we are going to learn about functional requirement. If you remember, in the previous classes, we have learned about requirement engineering, where we have tried to identify various phases. We have tried to identify what are the significance of the phases. We have tried to understand what is requirement gathering. We have tried to understand what is requirement analysis. We have tried to understand what is requirement specification. We have tried to understand the importance of SRS document and the goodness criteria that a SRS document should exhibit. Now, in today's class, what we'll learn about is we'll learn about the various ingredients of SRS document. So, the first aspect that an SRS document has to emphasize upon is the functional requirement. Now, functional requirement basically specifies the business requirement of the project in detail. So, functional requirement is capable of specifying what all functional aspects are to be implemented by the system on behalf of the customer. But here, whenever we are trying to express functional requirements, we express functional requirements in terms of in terms of scenarios. Right now, it may be difficult for you to understand a scenario. A scenario is defined as a particular way in which a system can be used by a customer, right, or by an end user. So a scenario is defined as a particular way in which a system can be used by a customer. So for an example, an ATM machine is a system. So ATM machine can be used for varied purpose, right? So an example, one of the reason for which ATM machine can be used is for validation. Another purpose for which ATM machine can be used is for withdrawing cash, or for checking balance, or for depositing cash, or for transferring cash. You see, each of these are nothing but scenarios, one possible way. So a scenario is defined as a possible way of using a system. So withdrawing cash is one possible way in which you can use the system. So that is the way how the functional requirements are specified. So functional requirements are specified in terms of scenarios, where a scenario refers to a particular way in which a system can be used by a end user. Now, functional requirements should contain combinations of various ways of expression. Okay, should contain combination of use cases and plain textual description of the system feature, because you see, this is one use case, one specific way of representing a behavior that is exhibited by your system. So it can be represented in terms of use cases and textual description. Again, there is no fixed format for use case description, but it usually contains the following information, right? Okay, so use case is one mechanism for expressing the functional requirements. Use cases. So there are various components of use cases that we're going to elaborate on, and we'll be discussing in detail in case of one of the chapters as well, in case of software engineering. So you not worry about this, right? Okay, so use case, as of now, just understand that use case is one of the mechanisms for representing the requirements that are to be implemented for a particular system. Now, what we have is, whenever we build up a use case representation, we build up a use case diagram. So, use case diagram is a diagram that depicts all possible use cases in a system, or all possible ways in which a system can be used by a user, right? Again, now, use case diagram, it will list all the actors and their details. So, actors are the one who are interacting with the system in order to perform the operation. Now, we have then every use case has to have a use case description that explains the very purpose of the use case. We need to specify the precondition. We need to specify the basic steps, right? Again, we need to identify the alternative steps that may be taken into consideration, the business validation rules, and the post conditions, right? Okay, so let us try to go in brief what all these aspects are about. So use case diagram is a diagram that tries to identify and represent all possible use cases that are there, right? Okay, and then we have the list of actors. List of actors are the users of the system who will be actually using the system in order to perform the operation. So for example, you can say that withdraw of cash is a use case, depositing cash is a use case, printing mini statement is a use case, changing of pin code is a use case, validating user is a use case in terms of an ATM machine. So you see, all of these are use cases. So so actors are the one who are interacting with the system. So a customer may be an actor, right? A use case description, each of the use case has to be described, right? Again, from the perspective of how it can be used and what are the tasks it performs. And then we have preconditions. So a list of system states condition that must be true for successful execution of the use cases. So these are called as preconditions. Basic steps are steps that are involved whenever you perform or whenever you execute a particular use case. So whenever you want to withdraw cash, there are set of sequence of steps that are to be followed, or there are sequence of steps that are to be followed in order to execute that particular scenario. So that's called as basic step. So alternative steps, say for an example, if there exists certain exceptions, so you're trying to withdraw cash and you don't have sufficient balance in the account. So that for that also what you need to do is you need to specify the alternative steps. Then you have business validation rules. Okay, right? Again, it includes the various ways of validating the input values that are there. Okay, and the post condition indicates the results of the use case. So whenever you're trying to express requirements in terms of use cases, okay, that's, as I've said, it's one way of expressing the requirements. You need to specify the following. You need to emphasize on the following aspects and create a representation for the same. Now, traceability matrix document. Now, this is very much important, right? Again, now you see each and every aspect of interest pertaining to the system that is to be realized on behalf of the customer has to be traced, because uh, you must have in the past we have learned about 99% complete syndrome, right, where it's a syndrome where the developer feels that the project is nearing completion where it's actually far from completion. Okay, so in order to ensure that the product is properly the progress of the product is properly controlled and monitored, what I need to do is I need to emphasize on traceability. Right, again, so traceability is one important aspect in case of software engineering paradigm that aims at maintaining or monitoring the progression of various requirements through the software life cycle. So to ensure that all the business process requirements are addressed in final software product, a traceability matrix document is used, right? So this is very much important. So in order to ensure that all the requirements that are to be realized on behalf of the customer are there in the final product, a traceability document or traceability matrix is to be created. Now, traceability matrix tracks each requirement through various phases of the software lifecycle model. As we've said, it tracks it through the design phase, it tracks it to the testing phase, various phases of testing, that is unit testing, integration testing, system testing, acceptance testing, right? So this requires that every requirement in the SRS document should be identified with the help of a unique number or a tag. This is very true. So if it's identified with the help of a tag, I can create a traceability matrix that will show the progression of the requirement through the various phases of the software lifecycle. Now, requirement analysis model. So let us try to understand what requirement analysis model. So requirement analysis model acts as a bridge between the functional requirement and the design of the software system, right? Okay. So you see, because eventually what we need is we need to create a representation of system that can be easily translated into design. So requirement analysis model is a model that acts as a bridge between what is the set of requirement and what is to be and how it is to be designed. So for example, use cases leads to user interfaces, data dictionary, entity relationship diagram are used for database design, schema and class diagram, so on and so forth. So you see, these are various models that can be used. So use case diagram that we have just discussed is used for building up the interface, right? Data dictionary and entity relationship diagram are used for designing database schema and class diagram. So this is the way how it actually works, right? So different aspects of requirement analysis tries to promote different aspects of the system, right? Okay, so like use case promotes user interface, right? Data dictionary and entity relationship diagram promotes database schema representation and class representation, so on and so forth. So following are some of the widely used requirement analysis models. So entity relationship diagram, you must have come across entity relationship diagram. So entity relationship diagram is a diagram that represents relationship between various entities that are participating in realizing their business. Okay, So whenever entity relationship diagrams are built, what we do is we try to establish relationship between various entities in terms of semantics. So, for an example, a teacher teaches a student, a teacher teaches one to n number of students, or one teacher teaches one to n number of students. So what we tend to do is we tend to associate semantic with the relationship as well as the participation. So we tend to specify the cardinality and the modality as well. So entity relationship diagram is a conceptual representation of the data in a software system. So it is capable of representing various entities that are participating in realizing the system along with their relationship. So one of the important entity relationship model that is used is called as crow's-foot notation. So if time provides, we'll discuss crow's-foot notation. Okay. So crow's-foot notation is a mechanism for representing entity and entity relationship and their participation. Okay. Now, data dictionary. So, data dictionary is a requirement document and is an extensive entity relationship diagram. So, each and every aspect that is there in case of entity relationship diagram has to be explained in detail. So, data dictionary holds that. Data dictionary is capable of providing a detailed explanation about various components of the entity relationship diagram. So, the data dictionary lists all the attributes pertaining to each and every. So, this is what I've said. It's capable of elaborating on each and every entities or each and every aspect that entity relationship diagram tries to focus on. That is entity, their attributes, and their relationships. So here it's also specified in case of whenever you are creating data dictionary, it's capable of listing all possible attributes, whether it's optional or whether it's mandatory, and a detailed description of what the set of attributes. Now, external interface requirements. So usually a software system interacts with number of external applications. Say, for an example, your online e-business system, right? So, for example, you must have seen Amazon, you must have seen a Myntra, you must have seen, so for example, there's so many online systems, for example, eBay, right? Okay, Alibaba. So there are various systems that are there that are capable of enabling you to do business. Okay, but you must have seen with all of this system, there are some external systems that are associated, like for example, banking system, right? Again, courier system. So external interfaces basically deals about the way how the system is supposed to interact with the external system, right? Again, so I've given here. You see, e-business application usually needs to be integrated to any of the payment gateway and the courier services. So this is very much important. So external interface requirement is also very much important. So non-functional requirement. So non-functional or non-technical requirements, how the system should operate. Say, for example, issues concerning performance, right? Usability, user friendliness, extensibility, scalability, all falls into non-functional aspect. So, non-functional or aspects are aspects that specifies how the system should operate. So, in contrast to functional requirement. Non-functional requirement where functional requirement specifies what is to be done, right? Non-functional requirements specifies under what condition the functions are to be performed, right? Again, so that is very much important, right? So non-functional requirement captures issues like performance, right? Performance requirement, scalability, security, maintainability, usability, auditing, migration. All right, okay, multilingual support. So these are the aspects that non-functional requirement basically tries to focus on. So non-functional requirements are requirements taking into account which the functional requirements should are expected to exhibit certain behavior. Now, importance of good software requirement. So, a good software requirement specification document now uh, should inculcate in it all possible functional aspects, and express it with the help of various models, right? Again, it has to inculcate in it, or it has to have in it the interface requirement, the data dictionary, the entity relationship requirement, so that the overall process of designing the software system can be done with relative ease. So a very good SRS document should be capable of expressing the various aspects of the system uh, in a precise, concise, and much more understandable manner, so that a design for a software system can be created out of it. Right. Okay? So let us try to go through the basic contents of SRS documents. So it has been divided into various sections. So SRS document should have first an introduction. So it should specify the purpose, scope, definition, acronyms, abbreviations, references, and overview. Then the overall description, that is product description, system interfaces, hardware interfaces, software interfaces, communication interfaces, memory constraints, operations, site adaptation requirements, right? Product functions, user characteristics, constraints, assumptions and dependencies, appropriation of requirements. Then specific requirements, external interfaces, functions, performance requirements, logical database requirements, design constraints like standard compliance, um, software system attributes, reliability, availability, security, maintainability, portability, right? Organizing the specific requirements as in case of system mode, user class, objects, features, stimulus, response, right? Functional hierarchy, and additional comments, change management process, supporting information. So just see, these are the aspects that SRS document should focus on or should have. So in a generic format of an SRS document, these are the aspects that you'll find. You'll find introduction, overall description. You'll find specific requirements. You'll find change management process, and you find software supporting information. Right. Okay. So there are different templates that are being proposed for creation of a SRS document, but this is a generic overview that SRS document should emphasize upon. So in today's class, what we've learned about is we have learned about functional requirement, right? Okay. So what is the importance of functional requirement? So why we need to have it in SRS document? We have learned about mechanism for expressing the requirements in terms of use cases. We have learned about what are the important aspects that we need to present whenever we are creating use case diagrams. Then we have learned about traceability matrix and the importance of the traceability matrix, right? Because what we need to do is we need to ensure that all the requirements are there at the final product, right? Again, so in order to ensure that all the products requirements are there at the final product, okay, each and every functional requirement is traced through the various phases of software development life cycle, right? Again, and then we need to discuss. We discussed the requirement analysis model. We discussed importance of the entity relationship diagram, data dictionary, external interfaces, the non-functional requirements. What are the various aspects that are covered under non-functional requirements? We've discussed the importance of a good SRS template, and we've discussed a generic SRS template, right, or format for SRS document, where what we have is we have different subsections, sections and subsections that tries to emphasize on different aspect of specification. So this ends the third chapter. So I wish you all a very good day and do stay safe.